you know, it's up here. All right. I'm going to call the meeting of the White Valley Sanitary District Board of Directors Personnel Committee to order. 4 o'clock on the 4th of June, 2025. Have a new board member who is sitting in via Zoom, Tom Reed, Division 1. Who's not a member of the committee, or at least yet. And so effectively for the record. So on that, do we have any public comment or any who's in the queue? No public. Okay. All right. Then we have for discussion and recommendation, item 2, resolution number 2015-07, salary schedule.
I think you might be on the wrong packet.
Oh, Lord, this says 2015. Yeah, that would
like
explain why.
It's like sweet.
Well, I got part of it right.
I thought you were so organized. You got your
And that's
I thought you were
consistent.
talking about the 980s today.
Yeah, that's consistent with yes. Oh, and then it does the Safari can't open the page. Still saying that.
Want my printed copy?
That might be helpful because I'll try it one other way. I'll do that. In any case, all righty. Having called the meeting to order, we're going to consider approval of director request for remote meeting attendance in compliance with Assembly Bill 2449. Do we have any? No. Okay. We have a quorum, however.
Who's the third person on the committee that's missing today?
BD. It used to be Bill Stone.
Oh, Bill Stone.
So it's a 2-person committee at this current juncture.
You did get my reference to. I think before I name Tom to any committee, I'm going to be considerate about his less than experience and be sort of selective on that. But I'm going to have to get someone here because we have lots of personnel issues. So, yeah. For the time being, however, it's just.
So you're going to have to just lay out all the directors' names and a big hat and pull them and.
No, I have a more focused approach to it. It has something to do with who I want to get even with, but having said that, until that eventuality transpires, it's just us 2 chicken pluckers.
Okay.
All right. In any case, I already addressed item number 3, public comment. We don't have any. Item number 4 is discussion. Is the pilot 9 difference 980 alternate back?
Thank you. What I'm seeking is the committee's input on coordinating the feedback that I've been directed to give the entire board. So really what it boils down to is we started off with the 980 program. It was a 12-week program that ran for 6 pay periods. That 6 pay period window ends on July 6th. Our next board meeting, we have a board meeting on June 16th, and we have another one on July 27th. I would contend that one of the most difficult parts of the pilot was actually the transition from the 5-day to the 980. And what I'm trying to alleviate is an unnecessary transition. So what I don't want to have happen is that we have we continue on with the 980. It ends on June 6th. We revert back to a 5-day-a-week schedule. And then I bring it to the feedback back to the board on July 27th. The board says, gosh, it really worked out well. Let's start it again. I don't want to have these double transitions. So really what I'm asking is your feedback as the committee. you have any input for me, and I have a couple of ideas that I broached that are in my board letter or my committee
Is
letter.
there gonna be any concern from staff about a potential bait and switch? We said we were gonna be on for a while and then off and then come back again.
I don't think so, but it's hard for the payroll group to do the transition. And there's an extra expense that occurs depending on where people's regular day off occurs. The way that the state of California mandates that we look at work weeks and overtime, sometimes in essence, it's in our mind's eye, we wouldn't think, I would not have thought it was overtime, but the state prescribes the switch as an overtime. So I'm trying to alleviate the switch back and forth for those two reasons.
That's just a couple of days of overtime.
It's just a couple of days of overtime, it is.
No big deal, really, in the overall scheme of things.
Correct.
It's almost like that could be treated like the cost of the transition,
It could be, yes, yeah.
making it into any employees keeping. Impacts cost until the pieces fall into place. It's my understanding that there's about 19 staff are for it. That leaves 7 staff that are not. And that's distributed between admin and engineering,
Admin, engineering,
lab.
management, the lab, and an employee at the treatment plant.
That's a question?
Sure.
Okay, during developing the pilot study, I'll have to come back to that question since I remember it. Written it down. Having one of those moments.
Okay, well, in that case, then let me, and while you around for it. Okay, how will those folks, 7 who aren't interested or been for whatever reason or another, how will they be addressed then? Just, they're going to maintain a regular
Yeah, they would just maintain a 5-day.
45?
They maintain that same schedule, yeah.
And does that impact any of the scheduling at any of the departments?
That's those 7, it would not impact any of the scheduling.
I remember my question, which is basically related to what we're talking about here. When we laid out the pilot program, there was an assumption that it was voluntary.
Correct.
People didn't have to be on it. Now that we're going to be going from a pilot program to a full-scale program, it's still going to be voluntary for the individual.
My recommendation is that it would be. At this point, I found no adverse scheduling where some people were on it and some people were. I found that the 980 was very easy for folks to work with and give them that option. I think it would be somewhat detrimental to an employee who's been working here for a long time that liked their 5-day-a-week schedule to have to change it. So that's me. I think there's another ramification that runs in is if it's a mandatory 980, then by rule, we have to go to a vote and there's a prescribed method that the state of California has. Whereas if it's an optional 980, folks have the option.
So your recommendation is an optional 980. Hello, that's what we did in the pilot program. That's what we're going to do full-time.
Well, no, we're not there yet. What I'm asking is, what I don't want to do is have the pilot program sunset on July 6th, revert back to a 5-day-a-week schedule, and then bring it to the board for the July 27th meeting, and then have it reconsidered. So really what I'm asking is perhaps we could either take a look at some feedback at the board meeting on June 16th, which would be a couple weeks before the end of the sunset. Or I could go to the board on June 16th, give an update of how things are going and ask, is there an appetite to continue the pilot program through July 27th, in essence, through that July board meeting, so that I can give an update then I'm trying to alleviate the switches is what I'm
Why
trying.
don't you give us the option of, is there also an option that we can just approve the program on the
Yes.
16th?
I could do that too.
That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. I mean, Jan and Allison and Scott, is there any reason why we shouldn't adopt this thing on 16th? June?
Your perspective. Elections and feelings about things.
I love it. I work plenty of hours as it is, so it's really just another day off for me.
Do you see any,
Just another, leaving yourself, sticking your neck out on that one.
Okay.
Thank you. And Allison?
I don't participate in it. I don't think that I could accomplish the flexibility that's required of my job if I participated in it, so I don't participate. I think it works perfectly fine for some.
The collection folks.
Correct. People,
Hopefully, helpful.
there are multi-classifications. I think it's challenging for the positions that are standalone, where there's only one person, because someone has to cover those services that does not occupy that classification. I think that's a concern on a regular basis. I think to some extent, those people that have to cover that, removing them from their regular duties on those days. So there are some pros, but there are definitely some cons. I have some safety concerns as we move into sort of daylight savings and stuff. It's super skeletally staffed at this particular location. There are numerous times where there is only one person here. I don't know that that's the safest thing. Always for it to be like that, especially since we're still open to the public. So I have some of those concerns. I don't know. I think I would have liked to have seen, look at some alternate schedules. I think actually a 410 would have worked really good for maybe one of the crews, have more public time that sort of more matches, construction crew time. There's days where it's not super popular to be working in the streets, Fridays being one of them, but you could get hours during sort of station. I think there's other things that we could look at. I think it like I said, it's very popular. Scott is correct. It is very popular for staff, and so that's the biggest pro. But there are some cons being small. We have looked at it before a couple of times. It's just weigh the pros with the cons and you decide.
you describe the times that we have one person in the office?
Or Friday, almost.
Is Friday, is that morning, evening, or the whole day?
Could be later in the afternoon or any time, or it could be all day when there's Scott or I are off or on vacation or.
Okay, so on a Friday, then Scott, if you're not here, generally, does one of you kind of hold the fort?
Generally,
One of us
Yeah.
is always here.
one of us is always here. I mean,
Fridays are tough because we work so many hours already before Friday that Fridays are generally a day that we sort of level out our work week. So it just happens to be the day that people are off here also, so.
So is the concern security, like some random person walking in off the street?
I think we have a responsibility to ensure that our employees are safe.
Of course we do.
So, I mean, I think that there's always some potential risk when somebody's here by themselves.
And we have pretty good security. We have beefy gates, we have beefy front doors. There's some way to lock the place down. You only take phone calls. You don't have people walking in for a couple hours.
That's one of the things that we had talked about early on for this particular location is potentially looking at the hours in which we're open Monday through Thursday and being closed to the public on Friday or by appointment only. And then the availability of the appointments would depend on the staffing specifically. I still think that might be a really good idea for this location. It's because it allows for a little more flexibility and less chance of having to tell somebody that a specific service is not available on that Friday, which is in the eyes of the public does not look fantastic. I know that a lot of agencies transitioned to that COVID and never transitioned back because they had sort of trained the public that that's how they operate. And I think as long as the public can see a benefit Monday through Thursday, for example, if we're open past 5 or before work, which we do get requests for people to come in and sign deferred agreements and such, I think the public would see the trade-off. But it has to be, like I said, it has to be somewhat mutually beneficial to the public and to us. And so we can be a more accessible Monday through Thursday.
I have two questions. One is from a traffic perspective, how many from the public would typical, for example, Friday bring in?
I
Fridays are
actually know this, so,
very slow.
yeah, so we kept a log for the month. We had 34, let me look at it. We had 34 visits in the 34-day work period that we kept a log. Fridays, we looked at 6 Fridays. Of those 6 Fridays, one Friday we received no foot traffic at all. 5 Fridays we had one person come in, and one Friday we had it was gonna be 4 Fridays, and then one person, or on one Friday we had 2 people come in. Our last person that came in on a Friday was about 2:50 in the afternoon. So it seems, when I look at it, we have a morning, a 1:30, a 12:45, a 2:50, an 8:30. One we didn't have a keep a time, but I think it was a morning drop off. The other one was 9 o'clock in the morning. So it tends to be before 3 o'clock on Friday that we have folks coming by. We haven't had anyone after 2:50.
To reduce the time limit, made like access available till 3, but not beyond 3. Satisfy some of the security concerns.
I
You
mean,
mentioned daylight savings, and I assume that means that when it gets dark.
I think it depends on what we evaluate as a risk. I mean, do we evaluate as a risk someone walking to the parking lots by themselves with no other employee here? As a risk, or do we only view the risk somebody sitting in the office by themselves and having the public come in? The answer to that question is I think it's up to the district to decide what they consider a risk. I think I'm necessarily the exact judge and jury on that one, specifically.
Could we have people park a car on the inside? On a Friday, we could have staff on a Friday afternoon park their car on the inside, and
It seems to me the eventualities where there's going to be one person here and be avoided. And that's how, from my perspective, it would be feasible to do. They move their car inside, or it gets closed. They're here by themselves, but the building's locked down from access to the public. And it seems that there would be minimal impact to the public, and around here is kind of used to vagaries of so high kind of situation. And that way we'd be able to maintain the security, the comfort level in the event, and it wouldn't have to be, okay, what are we going to do now? The regular protocol, and simply, and instead of announcing to the public, we're only open on such and such a days till 3 o'clock, leave it the way it is. And when it needs to be, we'll sign in the window of the doors that's saying we're closed. Really, whatever reason that would be a reasonable presentation, or simply that office closed at 3 o'clock today. Be open on Monday, the usual hours. So to me, that would address that. Going back to the 980, there was a reference to it. How much cross training is there going to have to occur in order to kind of cover things? That mostly at the treatment plant, or is that or an office as well?
yeah, I think in front office and maybe a few IT things. So perhaps posting agendas would be a cross training. So we did find that frankly, just posting this agenda for that was an issue that we both scratched upon right then. It was Jan's 980. We have one other person who's trained with posting agendas, but they also have the same 980.
2 other people.
Two other people, yeah. And so I think the reality is,
On the same Friday, you know.
I think we need to get another person cross-trained on posting agenda. So I guess the answer is,
I view cross-training as a positive thing.
I think so
We
too.
need to do it anyway.
Okay.
And if we finally have an excuse to kick us in the rear end to make us do some cross-training, let's do that. A question about the one-person issue. Sorry to circle back on that. Are there any times now, there are presence, before a pilot program, where there was one person here? I mean, I'm sure you've been here by yourself sometimes. How often did that happen?
I only ever here by myself if it's not normal working hours. And the answer to that question is never. Actually, I would intentionally schedule folks, so there was not just one person in the office at any given time, unless it was like someone's at the bank, and so there's one person up front for a period of time or something. Generally, scheduled to have at least two people. And then we used to have somebody from engineering trained to actually cover the front office to be the second person if there was only person scheduled in an emergency. But yeah.
I'm here by myself every morning for an hour and a half.
You know what, I'd be willing to,
I've been concerned about that for quite some time.
For you,
you know what I would be willing to consider is that we make a motion for approving the 980s, but that we also acknowledge that there's a concern about security issues. We, moving forward, approval of the 980 program, you make it a priority to try and figure out. It sounds like, Allison, you put some thought into how we can improve security here. Scott, maybe you have too. We move forward, the expectation that we're going to study different options of either earlier closing times, allowing people to work from home on a Friday afternoon, or having people park in the gates, things like that you talked about. We move forward studying those to alleviate some of the security concerns. That's what I would.
Does it, as far as getting folks, vehicles inside the gate, I would almost say that when there's only people here, it'd be a prudent thing to do, just because it's after, well, I know, and you could perhaps that have had issues out were board members. Oh, and that was a while ago. So,
You guys should know about?
no, it's attention getting. In any case, but to me, having a protocol like that, and once it's up to everyone's level of their own perception of personal security, of course, plays into that. But me, that would want it triggered when there was just one person. I'd rather have, because then same thing. If there's two people here, even if one of them is going to leave before the second person, to me, that's kind of a little bit of an overlap, and it'd be preferable to not at all. I think we'll also make a recommendation to the board to inquire extent, not granular, but that recommendation that cross training be implemented to the extent that there's not going to be any additional stress on anyone who's here who doesn't have the training and doesn't know what to do. Because I know, having been in that situation a few times myself, which gained new insight into administrative and accounting functions when I was left alone without any guidance. So, in fact, I'm re-traumatized just thinking about it. Okay, so I agree with that. Was recommendation, but
Just summarize it.
yeah,
We're going to recommend the adoption of the 980 program. We acknowledge concerns, security issues. You just talked about having flexibility. I think discussion would be to this flexibility, flexible approach to increasing security
And cross training is necessary.
and cross training.
If seems, I guess that's the direction we'll go with.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see here.
What should we ask? Should we ask Tom if he has any?
You have any thoughts about that, Tom?
The person member of the public, he can.
Well, I don't think I'm able to really comment on it at this point because I don't know what everybody's schedules are. It's just a normal 5-day work week currently, and you're looking to go to this 980.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. And we're in the middle of a pilot program that involves 6 pay periods.
Oh, okay.
We've got out of the staff so far, my understanding, correct me if I'm misspeaking myself, out of 19 folks, 12 of them have embraced it or opted for it. 7 have not. So they would just keep on a regular 540.
So they're going to have the option then, you're saying?
Yes, everyone does.
Well, if there's an option, I don't see the issue.
Unless it somehow, obviously, will something if something comes up that hasn't during the pendency of the pilot program.
There'll always be surprises.
Well, yeah. To recognize that and account for it. Okay. Then item number 5, reports. Members pursuant to Government Code 49542. Any report?
Nothing for me.
Neither for myself. In that case, then B, general manager, district activities related to this board committee.
I haven't, nothing else to add.
Okay. Else? Okay. In that case, then, I think it's the extent of the personnel committee meeting at this point, and I'm going to call it adjourned at 4:28. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Tom?
Thanks, Tom.